Good morning. I'll call the meeting to order. First thing on the agenda for today is updates and approval of agenda for today's meeting. Lloyd moves approval of the agenda for today's meeting. All those in favor? Carried. Before we begin, we have some new members at the table here. And Becky, would you like to introduce them, please?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess for our board, we don't have all of our board members here today, but I would like to introduce our new Director of Municipal Services, Joe Cartwright, sitting beside me. So I wanted to just introduce him to the board this morning. And then also we have Guy from our Public Works joining us this morning as a representative in case there are any questions for that department regarding the applications today.
Thank you and welcome. Okay, for the first for development application for consideration today is Ward 7 Solar Energy Facility Development Application 24/120. Is there a representative here for that? Would you please take the chairs up front? So before we begin, can you just please introduce yourself and your relationship with this application?
Is red on? There it is. Red is on. I have a booming voice, so I usually don't need the microphone. So, my name is Darren Bruins. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Métis Nation Power Authority. With me is Gary Loeb, who's our Chief Financial Officer, and Garrett Vorey, who's our Operations Manager, based here in Medicine Hat. We're a proud Indigenous-controlled renewable energy company here in Alberta, and our business model is a partnership between agriculture and the renewable energy industry. So we're very happy to be back with you. We saw you last fall when we did our first portion, and happy to say that we've gone through all of our permitting and everything else after the slight roadblocks that came up from different things, and we're back and ready to go. But very excited to finish our first project. That'll get up to 5 megawatts on some land that'll leave absolutely no footprint if we decided to leave it tomorrow. And yeah, that's where we're at.
Okay, welcome, gentlemen. Okay, so for discussion on this, we'll start off with Aaron. Can you please describe this application?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a solar energy facility located at the Southeast 33-11-7 west of the 4th. MNPA is requesting approval from MPC to construct and operate Phase 2 of their commercial solar facility. Phase 1 of this project was approved by the MPC on November 4th, 2023. The first phase of the solar project was approved at 0.95 megawatts. The proposed second phase is expected to generate 3 megawatts of electricity. Phase 2 includes the installation of ground-mounted solar panels on approximately 5.5 hectares, 13.5 acres, of land situated in the northwest corner of the site. Combined with the previously approved Phase 1, the project will cover approximately 8 hectares, about 20 acres, of the site. The subject site is approximately 7 kilometers north of Seven Persons along Range Road 73. Phase 2 received approval from the Alberta Utilities Commission on July 5th, 2024. The proposed 3 megawatt solar generation project is proposed to be connected to existing Fortis infrastructure. There will be minimal on-site activities once construction has completed, and no on-site storage will be required. No employees will be on the site permanently. However, staff will attend the site as needed to perform maintenance. As the letter of intent indicates, the installation of solar panels will occur in areas of the land that are not under irrigation. The applicant will be constructing the project with no concrete, no heavy equipment making alterations to the land, and there is no underground components. A temporary parking and construction office is proposed for the south of the parcel. The construction trailer will consist of a storage container. The temporary office trailer and parking area is proposed to be on site for the duration of the construction of the project, which should last about 200 days. As per the submitted site plan, access to the site is proposed from Range Road 73 utilizing the existing access approach. Traffic is anticipated to include standard light vehicles such as pickup trucks, SUVs, and cars. In Land Use Bylaw 22/09, solar facilities, like the one proposed, are Class 2 discretionary uses, which is why we're at Municipal Planning Commission for decision. Section 12.21 of the Land Use Bylaw outlines some of our rules for solar facilities. 12.21.1 requires AUC approval before MPC can approve the solar facility, and as I mentioned before, AUC approval was granted July 5th, 2024. 12.21.2 requires a development permit, and that's what we're approving right now. 12.21.3, they've received their approvals from AUC already. 12.21.4 requires that they obtain any required permits related to Alberta safety codes, and that is a condition of approval. 12.21.5 requires that all equipment and infrastructure be set back the required amount as per the A2 district, and that has been complied with. 12.21.6, when the site is decommissioned, we will need to have a decommission certificate, and that is one of the conditions of approval. And there's also a decommissioning plan that was submitted. And also 12.21.7, a development application shall require as a condition of approval that the developer of the solar facility commercial use enter into a road use agreement between the county and the developer. And that is a condition of approval as well. The proposed solar panels, the proposed temporary construction trailer, and the temporary parking meet the setback requirements of the Agriculture A2 district in Land Use Bylaw 22/09. We circulated the application to several agencies, including Westside Water Co-op, and they didn't have any objections. The City of Medicine Hat just provided comments regarding ground disturbances near their infrastructure. We also circulated to Enbridge Pipeline, and they did not indicate that any crossing agreements or anything like that would be needed. And it's non-residential, so to them the impact is low. Public Works Department, utilities, the 7 Persons Regional Water Line is close to the west shoulder of Range Road 73. If there's a excavation, they must dilate the regional line, which will not allow any lines parallel or regional water. It must have 2 meter separation from our water line. Looks okay. Anything on would be okay. Roads, they requested a haul route map for the road use agreement. And the industrial coordinator, Guy, the applicant will have to have an agreement in place with the other wind project, which has Township Road 120 and Township Road 114 as part of their haul route. This will depend on which route MNPA would plan to use. Township Road 114 from Highway 3 to Range Road 73 is not recommended as being part of their haul route. Drawings should be updated, and I believe that it will be a condition of approval. The development officer's recommendation, we're recommending approval of DP 24-120. Conditions 1 through 9 are standard conditions, and 10 through 16 are specific conditions to this permit. Condition 10 involves the temporary construction trailer, a timeline for that. And condition 11 involves the setbacks for the construction trailer. Condition number 12 requires a reclamation certificate to be submitted to the development officer upon decommissioning of the project. 13, a stormwater management plan would be needed. 14, subject to the developer submitting an emergency response plan and vegetation management plan for approval by Cypress County. And number 15, the developer entering into a road use agreement with Cypress County and be in compliance with the terms of the agreement to protect Cypress County road infrastructure. The road use agreement is to be executed with Cypress County prior to any oversized load being hauled on site or any works to enter or upgrade the county road right-of-way. As a requirement of the road use agreement, the developer will be required to provide an appropriate performance bond to ensure that the developer meets the obligations under the agreement. The developer is required to submit, number 16, the developer is required to submit a road approach application to ensure the existing approach meets Cypress County design guidelines and construction standards, or if a new approach is required. There is no alternate condition. I do have some photos. So I'm on the site here, I'm looking northwest, and the phase 2 location is right there. If we go to the next photo, we're looking northeast. And again, phase 2 will be located where it's shown on the photo. And then we're looking northeast, and that's the existing phase 1. So that's what the solar panels will look like. And then the next photo, we're looking northeast. Again, that's the phase 2 location. And again, we see the phase 1 solar panels. And we're looking north, and we're seeing phase 1 again. Then we're looking southwest. Then we're looking south, and the phase 2 locations on the left. Then we're looking east, and again, the phase 2 location is on the left. And that is all of the photos that I have, and Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Mr. Bruins, would you like to speak to your application and the conditions for approval presented?
Yeah, of course, we'll comply with all conditions for approval that are presented. We're very excited about this. We hope this will be the first of many that we have smaller scale partnerships between local landowners and ourselves as we build a renewable energy solution that works for everybody and is tailored to the agricultural community. Again, we're very, very excited. We appreciate the work that Aaron and Ingrid and the rest of the people have done. It can't be easy dealing with people like us that are relatively new to this and trying to do the right thing all the time, and we really, really do appreciate their patience, professionalism, and partnership. But we're very excited to go forward on this, and yeah, there we are.
Thank you. I'll open the floor to discussion and or motions from Planning Commission. Okay, so Dan moves approval of development application 24/120 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried.
Thank you very much.
Your development permit has been approved, subject to meeting the conditions which were previously discussed. The county will mail you a copy of your development permit. Since this is a discretionary use, there's now a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of this permit. The development permit will be advertised in Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within that time, your permit will become valid. If you have any further questions, you may contact the development officer after today's meeting to discuss them. Thank you, gentlemen.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
I'll watch that later. Is that okay? We'll talk to you about that. Okay, next item for consideration is development permits 24/73 through 24/111. Wild Rose 2 Wind Project. Is there representatives here for that project? Please take the chairs up front. Okay, before we begin, this has become standard issue statement before all the wind projects, and I asked the Planning Commission to consider whether they can participate and make a decision with an open mind, capable of persuasion based on information being presented during the meeting. If any of the members cannot be moved from their position, if they have one, they should remove themselves from this meeting. I'd ask anyone to recuse themselves if they have such conflict. None? Okay. All right. Mr. Aslam, would you please introduce your delegation? Excuse me? Just press the button on there and it'll turn green.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Thank you. Well, good morning, Council. Thank you very much, first of all, granting our request to hold an off-cycle meeting. We really appreciate that, and it will be, received very well in terms of us, planning our execution for the Wildrose 2 construction project. I'm a senior project manager with Capstone Infrastructure, representing our corporation in regards to the development permit applications for Wildrose 2. And I have on my right Joe Costas. He's our construction site manager for the project. Again, just to give you a bit of a background on Capstone Infrastructure, it is an publicly traded independent power producer focused on owning and operating renewable energy projects across Canada, and we are also looking into expanding into the United States market. We currently have over 30 clean renewable energy generation facilities with a combined capacity of just over 800 megawatts, and we have long-term plans to continue to grow that business. And with regards to this application, as you guys know, this project has been on the books for a number of years, and we had to go through a whole-scale revision of our turbine sites, which resulted in the AUC approval taking a little bit longer than we had anticipated. And here we are now, pursuing approval of our development permits so we can kick off construction and get this project built and generating clean renewable energy for thousands of homes.
Thank you very much. So for initial discussion on these applications, we will consider each application individually throughout, but for a general overview, please go ahead, Aaron.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wildrose 2 Wind Incorporated has submitted development permit applications 24/73 to 24/79 and 24/82 to 24/111 inclusive. The project area is located approximately 15 kilometers south of the hamlet of Dunmore. The project will be situated in agricultural lands that are zoned A2, Agriculture 2, in the Land Use Bylaw 22/09. The proposed wind farm would be in the following townships: 0904 west of the 4th, 0905 west of the 4th, 10-4 west of the 4th, and 10-5 west of the 4th. The proposed commercial wind energy facility will consist of 36 wind turbines and 1 meteorological tower. Wildrose 2 received approval from the Alberta Utilities Commission also on July 5th, 2024. The electricity generated at each turbine will be transported through an underground collector system routed to the existing Elkwater 264S substation. There are a total of 36 Siemens Gamesa wind turbines proposed, and a maximum capacity for each turbine is 5.2 megawatts. The maximum capacity for the project is up to 187 megawatts. Upon decommissioning of the project, the applicant has stated that the lease agreements with participating landowners include a decommissioning clause, termination of developer activities, which ensures sufficient funds will be available at the end of the project life to cover the cost of decommissioning and reclamation. A laydown yard and construction office have been approved south of Township Road 102 within the northeast 12-10-4 west of the 4th. This temporary use will be in operation until the construction of Wildrose 2 is completed. A development permit for the operations and maintenance building, O&M building, located on the north side of Township 102 within the southwest 13-10-5 west of the 4th, has been approved by staff. The proposed turbines and Met Tower meet the setback requirements of the A2 district and the requirements of Section 12.25 wind energy commercial use. During construction, there'll be a peak of about 175 employees. A minimum number of staff will attend the site post-construction as required for maintenance purposes. Operating hours of the wind facility will, of course, be 24 hours a day, 7 days per week. A road use agreement will be a condition of approval. The submission of an emergency response plan will also be a condition of approval. In support of the development permit application, the applicant has supplied several pieces of background information, including a traffic management plan, emergency response plan, which an amendment to the environmental evaluation, a shadow flicker study, a noise impact assessment, and a noise and flicker update. Relevant legislation, Land Use Bylaw 22/09. Under the Agriculture District 2 in our Land Use Bylaw, wind energy facility commercial is considered a Class 2 discretionary use. Again, that's why we've taken this to Municipal Planning Commission for decision. Section 12.25, wind energy facility commercial use states the following. 12.12.1, again, MPC can't approve a wind energy project like this until it has received provincial approval from the AUC. The minimum setback, 12.25.2, the minimum setback for a windmill from a hamlet shall be 2 kilometers. This setback may be reduced by the Development Authority if the applicant can demonstrate the windmill will not negatively impact existing development or future growth, such as light flicker, noise levels, structure and blade failure, ice throw. And that clause of the Land Use Bylaw has been met. There's no variances requested. And 12.25.3, that does not impact this application. There's no dwelling units located close to the windmills. 12.25.4, the minimum setback, well, from a dwelling unit, as I said before, there's no nearby dwelling units. So that condition is that part of the land use bylaw does not impact the project. So 12.25, regardless of the previous subsections, the Development Authority may increase the minimum setback from a dwelling to reduce the impacts from the WEF from the windmill. 12.25.6, the minimum setback from any underlying or adjacent county, utility, or public right-of-way shall be 1 blade length plus 10 meters, and all the windmills meet that requirement. The minimum setback for the windmill from a provincial hobby shall be determined by Alberta Transportation, and there was no impacts to provincial highways. And then 12.25.8, the minimum setback from railway, there's no railways nearby. 12.25.9, in all instances, the minimum setback applied shall be in accordance with the AUC stipulation and standards, and the AUC approved this on July 5th, so they meet that. 12.25.10, the turbine shall be positioned so the tip of the blade is entirely within the property for which the turbine has been placed, and that is met as well. 12.25.11, the development applications for wind towers shall be accompanied by the same wind power plant application submitted to AUC for approval. To avoid duplicating requirements, amendments subject to the AUC shall also be required to be submitted to the county by the applicant. At 12.25.12, a traffic impact assessment prepared by a qualified engineer shall be required as part of the development permit application. 12.25.13, if a windmill were to discontinue producing power for a minimum of 2 years, the windmill operator shall be required to provide a status report. A review of the status report by the Development Authority may result in the request for the windmill to be decommissioned. Failure to comply with decommissioning request may result in the issuance of a stop order by the county. 12.25.14, the minimum vertical blade clearance shall be 7.5 meters for a windmill employing a horizontal access rotor unless otherwise required by the Development Authority. 12.25.15, to ensure public safety, the Development Authority may require that a security fence 6 feet high be around the site to prevent people from entering the facility. No ladder or permanent tower access device shall be located less than 3.7 meters from grade. A locked device shall be installed in the tower to preclude access to the top of the tower. All of the above provided or such additional safety mechanisms or procedures be provided as the Development Authority considers reasonable and appropriate. 12.25.16, the use of tubular towers with locked door accesses will avoid the requirements of the previous section 12.25.11. 12.25.17, all power lines from the approved wind towers to the point of interconnection with the grid should be underground, except where the Development Authority approves overhead installations. 12.25.18, 6.18, the Development Authority shall require a windmill to be finished in a non-reflective matte color which minimizes the obtrusive impact of the wind tower. 12.25.19, no lettering or advertising shall be put on the towers or blades. 12.25.20, windmills are categorized as discretionary use. Development Authority may approve a windmill on a case-by-case basis, having regard for information provided in the application, proximity to other land uses, consideration of the cumulative effect of all WFE approved or proposed in the immediate underlying utilities, information received from the circulation of the application in the public, and effects of the impacts of municipal roads. So 12.25.21, the Development Authority may require the applicant to enter into a road use agreement, which is a condition of approval in this case, and provide security to the municipality in the form of a irrevocable letter of credit. 12.25.22, the Development Authority shall require a road use agreement between the county and the developer. 12.25.23, the municipality and the windmill company shall enter into a development agreement that specifies various things. And 12.25.24, the security will be released to the windmill company once the municipality is satisfied that any road issues and concerns have been satisfied as stated within the terms of the development agreement. 12.25.25, any portion of the project not completed within 2 years of the approval shall require an application for a time extension. The time extension application shall be considered by the Development Authority and may be granted in 1-year increments. The other legislation that we looked at was the Municipal Development Plan, and that is bylaw 21/24. The proposed wind energy facility commercial is aligned with the MDP. MDP policy 8.1.16 states the policy shall support and encourage renewable energy projects to locate in the county in a planned and managed way to mitigate the impacts on area residents, farming operations, and other industries. We circulated this to various agencies. Alberta Transportation provided comments. They didn't require an Alberta Transportation license, and they have indicated that the municipality will comply with all applicable items related to provincial highways and the also plan if applicable. And 6.184 of the MGA, the department expects that the municipality will mitigate the impacts of traffic generated by developments approved on the local road connections and highway system in accordance with Policy 7 of the provincial land use policies. And that's why we ask for road use agreements and stuff to ensure that the roads are not impacted. Cypress County Public Works provided comments. The maximum width of a road approach is 18 meters. Any approaches off of a paved road will have to be paid back to the property line utilities. No comments. Industry coordinator, any new approaches off a paved road will have to be paid back to the property line to ensure transition from paved road, and maximum width of approach is 18 meters. And our recommended motion is approval, and that would be for permits 23/73 to 24/79 and 24/82 to 24/111. And conditions 1 through 9 are standard conditions, and conditions 10 through 12 are specific to this development. Number 10, we're asking or requiring that all turbines, above ground structures, temporary storage equipment are required to meet a minimum setback of 40 meters, 130 feet from the center of any Cypress County public roadway. Condition 11, upon decommissioning of the project, a copy of the reclamation certificate or an equivalent certificate pursuant to the applicable laws at the time of decommission are submitted to Cypress County. And condition number 12 is the road use agreement with Cypress County. Basically, as with other developments similar to this, they need to be in compliance with the terms of the agreement as it relates to the project to protect the Cypress County road infrastructure. Road use agreement is to be executed with the Cypress County prior to any oversized loads being hauled on site or any works to upgrade or enter the county road right-of-way. As a requirement of the road use agreement, the developer will be required to provide an appropriate performance bond to ensure the developer meets the obligations under the agreement. Mr. Chairman, we have no alternate motions. We do have the air photo up on the screen showing the location of the Wildrose wind facility. And as I said before, we recommend approval. And this concludes my presentation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Aaron. Mr. Aslan, would you like to speak to your project and the conditions presented?
Yes, so our project, as Aaron mentioned, is a 36 turbine, approval from the AUC. We are using the Siemens Gamesa 5.2 megawatt, turbine technology with a total plant capacity of 187, megawatts. We already had the substation built and interconnected last year under a separate development permit, so the substation just waiting to receive the generation from these turbines, and we are committing to comply with all of the development conditions for the development permit.
Okay. I have a quick question. Why were 25/80 and 24/80 and 24/81 struck by the AUC?
As you are aware, recently the Alberta government introduced new conditions with regards to visual impacts of wind turbines from pristine landscapes. Previously, the AUC process did not consider places of worship, as permanent, structures that would have the same, setback requirements. But with the new, requirements, they felt that our turbines were a little too close to the Little Plume Church, and the Little Plume Church was granted intervenor status during the AUC hearing, and that's why AUC withheld approval of those two turbines.
Okay. Before we begin consideration of each permit, and we have to go through each one individually, I'll open the floor to discussion from Planning Commission. Go ahead, Lloyd.
Well, you answered my question about the Little Plume. That's my area. But from day one to your finish, when shovels go in the ground, how long is this project going to take you?
Okay, currently, with the 3-week notice period, we are still finalizing our schedule for civil construction. We will have lack of productivity or slow pace during the winter months, because these projects rely extensively on fair weather construction. So currently we are anticipating that our projects will be fully COD'd or achieve commercial operation by September of 2025. So approximately, 1 year from now.
Thank you.
So you don't project footings and foundations being started this fall then yet? Or you
We
do?
are projecting to do a majority of our civil works, which will be building the approaches, the private access roads, foundations for the wind turbines this year, and then continue doing the underground collection system and turbine installation and commissioning next year.
Okay. Thank you. Dan?
So with your decommissioning fund, where are those funds being held now? Are they bonds, or how are they doing it?
Okay, so currently, as you know, that the government of Alberta is planning to come up with reclamation security regime. So once that, the AUC, the AUC approval says that this type of regime would be considered by the AUC and worked out 3 months after the implementation of Government of Alberta's reclamation security regime, whenever this may be. So once this regime has been announced, Wildrose will decide if they can work with that regime. If they feel that they are not subject to that regime, then Wildrose will need to provide within 3 months a reclamation plan which is acceptable to the AUC.
So there's no funds put away to start with? You start building and then you
Right.
come up with a plan after you build?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, it's different from the first time around. There was a plan set first, up before they started building.
Now, I guess this is dictated by the AUC regulations, correct?
Yeah.
So there's no debate on our end of things, right? Becky, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, likely each individual landowner agreement goes through the details of that decommissioning plan and monies that would be secured at that time too.
But that's after they build, though.
There would be one in effect right now, correct?
Yes, so our lease agreements, obligate us to, reclaim the sites at the end of the project life cycle. So those obligations are still in place with the lease agreements, and because we are subject to the AUC, conditions for reclamation security, whether we decide to be subject to the government of Alberta's reclamation security regime, and if we do not agree with that regime, then within 3 months we have to provide a reclamation, plan to AUC, which is acceptable.
So just for clarification, so then the reclamation agreements would be a two-part, one with your private agreement and one with the AUC's, under the AUC's dictates. Does the AUC's dictates then take precedence over private agreements, or how will that work?
The AUC, our private agreements are quite, high level, do not go into a whole lot of detail. I mean, whatever infrastructure we put on private lands, such as a wind turbine foundation, a wind turbine, access road, collection system, all of that has to be, reclaimed to the satisfaction of the landowner. And if AUC has, any other requirements, which will again be subject of this government of Alberta's reclamation security regime, then, we will either accept that security regime and put up the necessary security. And if Wildrose feels that it does not subject to that, reclamation security, then we will provide our own plan within 3 months of that security regime being announced by the government.
Okay, so the one with the private landowner right now, who holds those funds right now, or how are those funds sitting there?
Those funds are not, put into an escrow account, because that would be too big of a financial, liability to be held for such a long time. So that is our commitment with the landowners, that at the end of project, those areas will be reclaimed, to the condition that they were in when we started.
Okay, so if you sell the company or it changes hands, does that all change hands and follow along?
Absolutely, yeah.
So what you're saying, it's your decision whether you follow the regime as dictated by the AUC for reclamation, so there would be no retroactive kind of aspect to it, or would that, when the AUC comes up with this decision on how they're going to set aside the funds,
No, so-
from your perspective, you don't have to abide by that because you've stated you have another alternative available to your company?
Right, so the AUC approval says that this type of regime would be considered by the AUC. I mean, if the government of Alberta comes up with the security, regime applicable to renewable projects, then AUC is allowing developers to decide if they want to follow that regime or they want to develop another reclamation, plan which is acceptable to the government of Alberta and the AUC.
Okay, okay, that's clear then. Any more discussion? Okay, well, we will consider each permit application on their individual basis. So first application for consideration is 24/73. Dan will move it. All those in favor? Carried. 24/74. Michelle will move that one. All in favor? Carried. 24/75. Lloyd will move that one. All in favor? Carried. 24/76. Dan moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/77. Michelle moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/78. Lloyd moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/79. Dan moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/80 and 24/81 are struck. 24/82. Michelle moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/83. Lloyd moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/84. Dan moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/85. Michelle moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/86. Lloyd moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/87. Dan moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/88. Michelle moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/89. Lloyd moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/90. Dan moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/91. Michelle moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/92. Lloyd moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/93. Dan moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/94. Michelle moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/95. Lloyd moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/96. Dan moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/97. Michelle moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/98. Lloyd moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/99. Dan moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/100. Michelle moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/101. All those in, Dan moves, 24/101. Lloyd moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/102. Dan moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/103. Michelle moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/104. Lloyd moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/105. Dan moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/106. Michelle moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/107. Lloyd moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/108. Dan moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/109. Michelle moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/110. Lloyd moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. 24/111. Dan moves approval. All those in favor? Carried. So your development permit has been approved, subject to meeting the conditions which were previously discussed. The county will mail you a copy of your development permit. Since this is a discretionary use, there's now a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of this permit. The permit will be advertised in Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within that time, the permit will become valid. If you have any further questions, you may contact the development officer after today's meeting. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you so much, Chairman, and thank you, rest of the council. This project has been on the books for a number of years now. We already have all of our turbine components in storage, approximately an hour away from here. We're just ready to, get this project built and generating. So thank you so much for your support.
Thank you.
Phone calls I got about the little plume.
So they obviously, interveners status appealed it, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. They most certainly did. They do. I gotta eat my fucking donut.
All right, that's it for today's meeting. I don't think I have to announce the next meeting because that's already been announced in the last MPC meeting. Thank you, everyone. I adjourn the meeting.
August 16th? 13th, okay. Just checking.